Hey, I'm Blair Best. Tonight on The Story, we begin along the Columbia River, historically known for its salmon runs. Photographer John Goodwin and I went on board with Oregon State Police as they patrolled these waters, enforcing the many salmon fishing regulations and catching those breaking the rules. It's our big story tonight.
Hey there.
The Columbia River,
I'm Luke Schwartz with the State Police.
Is known for its diverse runs of salmon.
Any luck today?
Yes.
Nice. Who's the lucky fisherman?
Thousands test their luck on the river each year,
See anybody else catch any fish?
following the runs and regulations.
Could I take a look at everybody's licenses and tags, please? We're tasked with environmental and resource protection. This river has some of the best fishing opportunities around, but there are some salmon runs and steelhead runs that we're trying to protect.
Sergeant Luke Schwartz with Oregon State Police has been patrolling these waters for decades.
To ensure that we're targeting the fish that we want to catch and minimizing the impact on those other protected fish.
That's where using only barbless hooks comes in, a requirement that makes it harder to catch, but easier on the fish.
Are you aware of the barbless regulation on the river?
The piece of the hook preventing it from slipping out of a fish's mouth must be closed.
I'm issuing you a citation for angling prohibited method with barbed hooks, okay? Why don't you go ahead and hand me your set of pliers? If you're gonna pinch them down, all the hooks need to be pinched down. The concept or theory behind it is it makes it easier if a fisherman brings a fish up next to the boat, they see it's a wild fish, so one that has an adipose fin, they're more easily able to release it without bringing it out of the water, minimizing the impact of the fish.
Catch limits vary in Oregon depending on the body of water and the time of year.
If we see somebody who has caught more than what they're allotted for that season, more than their daily bag limit, it usually results in a citation with a fairly substantial fine.
Penalties could include a Class A misdemeanor, which is up to 364 days in jail, a more than $6,000 fine, or both.
Howdy, State Police, could we have you swing those poles in for us?
Each catch must be immediately logged online for the state to keep track and prevent illegal harvesting. After about an hour on the water, we head to the bank of Sauvie Island.
Hey sir, can I talk to you real quick?
This boat from Washington tried leaving after spotting Sergeant Schwartz.
Any luck today? Any luck? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Any luck today? Okay. So there's no fish on board?
No, there is.
There is a fish on board.
They had 2 salmon on board.
I just barely got my fish. I just caught it and we're backing stuff up and
The fish already cleaned and in the cooler.
stuff right there.
Can you pull up your angling tag?
Yeah, I'm just kind of getting everything
Yeah.
together.
Have you validated the fish yet?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
And I was just kind of getting my stuff
Okay,
together,
well,
but I'm going
well,
there right now.
I already be able to tell if you validated or not.
I haven't.
Sir, you don't need to be pinching those hooks now, sir. I'll have you step out of the boat.
Okay.
It seems to me that you're probably aware of the regulation to have barbless hooks. It's just unfortunate to us that when we see people do that, I mean, that indicates that you knew what you were doing.
I did. I'm not gonna lie to you.
They were both cited and fined for fishing with barbed hooks and not recording their catch.
I did the crime. I gotta feel like I should pay the ticket. I did it.
I do think it's harassment because everywhere you go, they show up every day, pretty much. And day after day after day.
I mean, I'm the one that used barbs. I cheated. My fault.
Back on the boat,
And so I would just ask that fishermen do their best to follow those regulations because that's what's allowing them to be out here to fish.
a fish for a species that has lived in Oregon waters for thousands of years. Sergeant Schwartz doesn't want that to change.
I recognize the need for us to regulate some of these fish runs and all wildlife to a certain degree to ensure that next year we can enjoy those same species and our children and years to come.
It's why he's not letting those on these waters off the hook. The fall fishing season in the Columbia Zone began August 1st and it lasts until the end of the year. Now, according to a recent report from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, from June 16th to July 27th, there were just over 27,000 fishing trips along the Columbia River. 525 Chinook salmon were caught and kept. 725 were released. Over 2,000 steelhead were kept. Over 2,600 were released. Over 800 sockeye were kept and 96 were released. Now, starting Thursday, some of the rules around salmon fishing in the Columbia zone will change. Retention of hatchery Chinook, hatchery steelhead, and hatchery coho will be allowed. The daily limit will be 2 salmon or steelhead, but only one may be a Chinook and only one may be a hatchery steelhead. Now, rules like that continue to change throughout the season, so be sure to check out the Oregon Fish and Wildlife website before heading out on the water. But talk to us. What do you think about the enforcement of wildlife regulations? Have you had a run-in with troopers out on the water? Maybe you've seen people breaking the rules out there. Share your thoughts and your stories. Email us, thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. And while we're talking about enforcement on the water, let's turn to the Willamette River. The Department of Fish and Wildlife sends troopers there to enforce fishing rules, but the Polk County Sheriff's Office Marine Patrol makes sure people are safe while on the water. Well, that Marine Patrol team is no more, thanks to federal cuts from the federal government. The Oregon State Marine Board did not get a federal recreational boating safety grant this year, totaling about $24,000. That money made up about 30% of the Marine Patrol's budget. And without it, the Polk County Sheriff says it was impossible to keep it going.
We've been working since February of this year to maintain that grant. There is some terms and conditions the Department of Homeland Security imposed that in general are contrary to state laws, and that was something that our agency couldn't agree upon.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office just across the river will step in, responding to calls along the Willamette, but we're told their budget has also been cut, and they say service levels may not be as robust as before. Our coverage of transportation funding in Oregon continues tonight with a sort of status check on mega projects in our region. Last month, we told you about the Rose Quarter project in Portland. It's on life support after the Trump administration killed a big federal grant program, and the state legislature failed to pass a transportation funding package. But we're going to show you what's going on with 4 other big projects in the region. The interstate bridge replacement between Portland and Vancouver, the Burnside Bridge replacement, the Hood River Bridge replacement, and the Abernathy Bridge seismic retrofit in Clackamas County. Abernathy is the only one that's actually under construction. That got underway in summer 2022. So let's start with that one. It's a large-scale retrofit transferring the whole bridge deck to a new set of support columns that can withstand a major earthquake and widening the deck while they're at it. The project will wrap up next fall, at least if nothing else goes wrong. Inflation and engineering and construction problems have already caused delays and nearly $300 million in price increases since 2021. Abernathy is mostly funded by bonds, using money from the last state transportation package in 2017. The cost overruns means it's eating up much more of the 2017 money than it was supposed to, leaving less available for other bridge projects in the years to come. During this past legislative session, it was often mentioned that Oregon needs to replace about 1,000 aging bridges in the next few decades. Right now, we're averaging 3 per year. Long way to go. Heading north, let's check on the Burnside Bridge. This one is a full replacement, and the project will start by tearing down the current bridge so the new one can be built in the same place, which means there will be no Burnside crossing available for about 5 years. The start of construction was recently pushed back from 2027 to 2028, a delay that Multnomah County blamed on uncertainty at the federal level. And you see here, there's quite a bit of funding still needed for this project. They've received $7 million in federal funding so far, but are hoping for an additional $450 million in another federal grant to get the project fully funded. The county applied for it last year and struck out. Last week, county commissioners voted to try again, though there was some acknowledgement that the odds feel longer this time around and not wanting to waste staff time if it's a lost cause.
In light of the federal administration, I am glad we're applying. I think that is the right thing to do. I appreciate our realistic expectations. I just am wondering, like, how all-consuming this might be for your time.
Yeah, I think we're realistic about our chances. to be competitive for discretionary grants with this current federal administration. It didn't take that much staff work because we've already done it before. It took a little cleaning up. So if it really took a lot of staff work, I'm not sure the benefits would outweigh the work, to your question. But in this case, it does.
So we'll see about that grant, but you get a sense of why construction was delayed to 2028. Now to the biggest of the bunch in our roundup, the interstate bridge replacement. It's a full replacement of the twin bridges that carry I-5 over the Columbia River, including a light rail extension to Vancouver. In 2023, the price tag was $6 billion. There's an updated cost estimate coming later this year, and it's widely accepted that the price will be much higher. The project team wants to start construction next year, but there's a lot that needs to happen before then. The project is still going through federal environmental review, which is supposed to wrap up this year. We're also still waiting on an answer to one of the most fundamental questions about the project. Will it be a drawbridge? That's what the U.S. Coast Guard wants, and the project team has been trying to convince them to change their minds for about 3 years now. But they're running out of time because they can't finish environmental review if they don't know what they're building. Okay, on the money side, the project does have a couple $2 billion on the line in federal funding and an application in progress for another $1 billion, though none of it is from the specific program that rocked the Rose Quarter project. So things appear to be okay for the Interstate Bridge project at the moment. But let's wait and see what that new cost estimate says this year, because that could have serious implications for what happens next. Now, about those tolls, COTEC's pause on tolling includes an exception for the I-5 bridge, so they're coming. They're going to start on the current bridges while the replacements are being built. Right now, that is scheduled to start in 2027. Finally, let's head east to look at the replacement Hood River Bridge. This is another full rebuild aiming to replace the current rickety drawbridge with a higher-up fixed crossing with wider lanes and a bike and pedestrian pathway. The governor's tolling pause only applied to future tolls, and the tolls for this one are already in place. They cover maintenance on the current bridge, and they were hiked a couple years ago to start raising money for the replacement. Last week, the bridge team signed a contract for full design and engineering and are hoping to start construction in 2027, although that will depend on whether they can secure the rest of the funding. They're about halfway there at the moment. Money from the state of Oregon was pointed towards this project during this last legislative session, despite a full transportation package failing to pass. The project is planning to apply for a $500 million federal grant to cover the rest. So there you have it. Despite the bad news for the Rose Quarter project and the big question mark around the funding or the future of the transportation funding in Oregon, the other 4 mega projects are still standing. Though with the exception of Abernathy, they're each still in need of another large federal grant before years of planning and design can become reality. Now to highlights from the latest KGW investigation, all about police officers unable to respond to emergency calls. The reason? They're stuck at the hospital with a suspect who claimed they swallowed drugs. Police call it dope swallowing. Suspects think they can avoid going to jail or simply delay booking by claiming they've ingested narcotics. Kyla Boshi found it's been a problem in the Portland metro area for years.
You have anything that's going to hurt me, stick me, or poke me?
No,
Okay.
I used to swallow some Fenny.
Oh, you did? Okay. How long ago did you swallow the Fenny?
What?
How do you not know?
Despite her claim, police have no choice. They'll take her to the hospital and will be tied up with this one suspect for almost an entire shift until she's evaluated and cleared by doctors, then sent to jail.
We're literally sitting in a chair in the hospital room. There's nothing that we can do as far as, enforcement action, law enforcement action.
Okay, Kyla Boshi joins me now. Kyle, how often does this happen?
There's no hard data. Nobody's really tracking it, but I reached out to police agencies around the Portland metro area, and they were all very, very familiar with it. They see it happens with regularity. They really are frustrated by this as well. They only have a limited number of officers during a shift, and when one of those officers is sitting there at the hospital unable to respond to calls, takes somebody out of service and puts a strain on everybody.
So what is the solution here?
Good question. So this is not just a Portland problem or a Portland metro problem. It's happening all over the country. Utah passed a law last year, actually, creating stiffer penalties for those who lie and claim they ingested drugs when they didn't during arrest. Locally, it's something that folks have worked on. There was a work group in 2018 to look at this. Multnomah County prosecutors, police, health officials came together, came up with kind of a plan, dedicated hospital beds and an officer to monitor those who claimed to have ingested drugs until they could be taken to jail. But unfortunately, a pandemic hit and that plan was derailed.
Okay, Kyle, thanks so much. And if you want to catch Kyle's full investigation, you can find it now on our streaming app, KGW+. Download the app for free on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Well, coming up next on the story, it's being touted as the largest deregulatory action in the history of America. What the EPA is doing at the direction of President Trump that has major implications for the environment, and why the agency's director says the science has changed on climate change. That's next when the story returns. The administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, says the federal government will no longer recognize that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. They're revoking what's called the endangerment finding, a declaration from 2009 that concluded that planet-warming greenhouse gases pose a threat to humans. Here's EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin at a truck dealership in Indianapolis last week.
This proposed rule is a proposal to eliminate the endangerment finding, to eliminate greenhouse gas standards, all the regulations that came out, including the electric vehicle mandates.
Okay, this could mean big changes for U.S. environmental policy. In fact, Zeldin is promising it will, telling the Indiana truck manufacturer it will be, quote, the largest deregulatory action in the history of America.
As it relates to greenhouse gas emission standards on light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty, It doesn't reset anything. It eliminates everything.
The scientific conclusions in the endangerment finding have been used as the basis to regulate emissions and fight climate change. The Obama and Biden administrations used it to set strict limits on emissions from cars, power plants, and other sources of pollution. But Zeldin told CNN's State of the Union yesterday the science has changed.
Now, going back to 2009, the science that they were reviewing included both optimistic to pessimistic scenarios. To reach the 2009 endangerment finding, they relied on the most pessimistic views of the science. The great news is that a lot of the pessimistic views of the science in 2009 that was being assumed ended up not panning out. Hey, that's great. We can rely on 2025 facts as opposed to 2009 bad assumptions.
President Trump issued an executive order directing the EPA to consider the change. Washington Attorney General Nick Brown says he's considering all options to fight back, writing, "As Washington battles wildfires and the nation swelters under extreme heat, Donald Trump and his EPA want to gut the rules regulating harmful climate pollution. If the president is successful, the danger will still exist. The federal government just won't do anything about it." And Oregon Governor Tina Kotek called it alarming, writing, "Oregonians value public health decisions based on science, not politics. We need our federal government to stand with us by reducing air pollution that reaches across state boundaries. Oregon has climate pollution reduction goals and programs grounded in science, and we will continue on our path forward despite this backward step by the Trump administration." Okay, it's not a done deal yet. Americans have a chance to weigh in on the proposal. Whether that will actually make a difference remains to be seen. The EPA is taking public comment through September 15th, and you can find a link for that at epa.gov. Well, a familiar face is joining the Trump administration. Joe Kent, who ran for Congress in Southwest Washington twice and lost twice to Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, was confirmed last week to lead the National Counterterrorism Center. As director, Kent will oversee counterterrorism missions and lead the government's efforts to analyze and respond to terrorist threats. Kent was previously an Army Green Beret and worked for the CIA. His nomination was opposed by Democrats because of far-right ties and his insistence that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. During his confirmation hearing, he also refused to distance himself from a conspiracy theory that federal agents instigated the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Washington Senator Patty Murray said he was unqualified in just about every way imaginable.
And it's not just his connections. There's his own bigoted statements like claiming Islam is, quote, based on conquest at its core and pushing racist replacement theory rhetoric. That is alarming stuff.
Kent was approved on a 52-44 vote, with one Republican senator, Tom Tillis from North Carolina, voting against him. We're back right after this. It is that time of year. The KGW School Supply Drive is going on now. One of the best ways you can help is to give online. Go to kgw.com/school and click Donate Cash. When you give online, you'll get a Columbia Sportswear Employee Store Pass. We want to thank On Point Community Credit Union, Safeway, and Rick's Custom Fencing for everything they're doing to make this year's supply drive a success. And before we go tonight, over the weekend, more than 200 Oregon Army National Guard soldiers returned home after spending a year in the Middle East. The 2nd Battalion, 218th Field Artillery Regiment spent time in Iraq and Syria, supporting Operation Inherent Resolve, the military's effort to take down ISIS in the region. Family and friends gathered at a National Guard recruiting camp in Happy Valley to welcome everyone back home to Oregon after 12 months overseas. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+. And you can download the free app right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great Monday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.